Okay, everybody, ready for part 2 of this video. I did learn a few things right after I filmed the previous video, and the first thing I wanted to touch on is these EEPROMs. So in my previous video there was a couple of these EEPROMs that I was able to clean up and save that were not able to verify at 5.5 volts, basically VCC on the EEPROM burner. What I did is I took those two EEPROMs, I don't know which ones they were, they might have been these two, and put those back in the programmer and reburned them without erasing them, just burned them again, and that basically allowed them to verify at both 5.5 and 4.5 volts. And I did make a comment on that in my previous video, just talking about how, you know, the EEPROMs work, and basically reprogramming them or pushing the cells or the electrons that are in the cells back up to the control gate, and whatever. I'm not going to go in. I may have to go through a whole bunch of information, but just read the comment and basically cover your EEPROM windows and potentially reprogram them using the same algorithm, even if they verify fine. Okay. The other thing I learned is that, like I said, I didn't research anything before starting to work on this, is the alarm that we heard on this Hogan's Alley. I'll play it real quick. Let's power it up. That noise right there is normal. That's a gun alarm sound, because this is a gun game, a light gun game, and I don't have a gun plugged into it. It generates that alarm sound. Now, I do have some colors that to me look off, like this guy over here looks off, and you have this red, green, and blue RGB controls here. One is for this side of the board and one's for this side of the board. Let me see. And these are not supposed to be messed with. They're supposedly set from the factory. You're not supposed to mess with them. But one of the things I noticed is if I change the red, it has an impact. I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully you can. And if I change the blue, like I'll turn it all the way up, and you can actually see some blue lines, like it's getting overdriven there. See some blue lines. So it's definitely having an impact when I adjust the blue. But when I adjust the green, there is no impact at all. And so I found that interesting. I think there's a problem in this green circuit here with the color. So that's one thing I do need to address. Let me think if there's anything else, just so you guys can see how bad this board was. I mean, look at the rust and stuff that was on there. So some of these chips, I might actually treat this board with some toilet bowl cleaner again to try to get it even better, some of the corrosion off. But anyway, in my bench setup, I don't think I'm going to be able to use this other side to see if these red, green, and blue work. I might have to do some research there, or somebody might be able to help me. How do I test this side of the board in like a single monitor setup like this? Don't know if I can. And so that also brought me to, I do have this Multiverses light kit. I bought this back in 2016, so this has been like a 4-year project before I've even had a chance to look at it. There's videos out there on this, so I'm not going to cover it, but it allows you to play multiple versus games on a couple ROMs. But just to test the sound, I programmed some versus Pinball ROMs that will work with this PPU. I think I called this a PIC, but it's a PPU. I'm going to put the versus Pinball ROMs in there, power it back up, and look at the colors. And then I'm going to try to figure out what's going on in this circuit here, because this green should be adjusting something and it's not, and I think that's why my colors. So I put the Hogan's Alley kit in my Nintendo tennis versus board just to see what the colors look like, and it's definitely much better. I don't know how well it comes out on the camera. This is kind of red. You can see this guy's face much clearer. She's got a purple dress. We got R1 is green. This is white, kind of purplish mist green up here. So anyway, I just wanted to see, and then I also turned these up and was able to see that the green was adjusting. So definitely a problem on the other board somewhere in that section there. So I yeah, I don't know where I left off. I actually did put virtual pinball in. Did I power that up? I'm going to power this up in case I did, and I can't remember. I have to go back and watch it. But I forgot to mention one thing. Let me see here real quick. I don't know if you can see. You see there is these vertical lines on this board with Hogan's Alley. There's these slight vertical lines. Hopefully you can see them in the background. Almost like the brightness is like almost like retrace lines, but not. So it's kind of weird. Just documenting that so I can come back to it. I have the pinball ROMs and stuff running, whatever. I can't talk right now, but it does. Colors definitely look off. I mean, there's almost no white. You see the ball is empty. One up top. I don't know if those are supposed to be in green or something. Maybe that's why. But obviously the sound does work. What's kind of weird is my my little JAMA setup here is not really working well. So the sound works good, but you can see like it's not really. There's no white. There's no ball. I think those are supposed to be green, so I think we definitely have an issue. Oh, I turned the volume down too much. There we go. And I can only, my B button doesn't work, only my A, so I can't really play the game. It's kind of weird. My coin number 1, coin number 2 don't work, so I don't know what's going on with this setup. I'm not even going to bother troubleshooting it though. So anyway, game definitely works. I don't see the weird lines at all, so I don't know if that's something to do. Can't be with the PPU because it's the same PPU. I don't know what's going on over there. Alright, time to break out the schematic here. And basically the red, well actually the red, green, and blue come from this PPU, the color chip, and I just blew up the schematic here. It comes in on these lines for like the red, the green, and the blue from pin 15. Now this says 2F, but it'd be the equivalent of 8F, I guess, on this side. So this diagram, I guess, or schematic is only for the lower side of the board, so we just have to, translate it, I guess, to the other side. And so the green comes into a transistor called Q14. There's a resistor, a capacitor, another transistor, variable resistor, which should be it looks like 500 ohms. Then there's a couple other resistors going to ground, and then Q17, which is tied to, I believe that's 12 volts. So one side of Q17, before it goes into the green here, and one final resistor is tied to basically 12 volts, I think, right? Yeah, through this R36. Yeah, that's right. So the first thing I'm going to do is basically just make sure I already tested continuity. We have continuity from our PPU over here. Actually, I'll just show you this part real quick. So this side is like what I was just describing, Q14, which is right here, is for the, I don't know if you want to call this the lower side or this is the upper side, this is the lower side, I don't know. But anyway, it's for this 1 and 2, this section of the board, and it comes in here. The interesting thing is here's Q14, and then the other two transistors are over here, Q19 and Q17. So it's like for the green, it jumps from being here all the way over to here, whereas blue, it's here, 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 there. You know what I mean? And then I think these 3 3P and 4P are for this side of the board, I think. This is my assumption. I haven't tested it yet. And then these two chips here, an LA6324 and a 4066, are for the upper side of the board, which is up on this side. But we're going to be looking at this transistor, this capacitor, that resistor, probably, I would assume, Q21, Q23. But first I'm going to put the scope and just see what my readings are actually out of the PPU when I power it on. Check on pins 14 is red, 15 is green, and 16 is blue, and see what we see out of the PPU, because maybe it's a PPU issue. I don't know. So let me do that. All right, so this is the red signal right there, if you can see it. I have my frequency counter on there. It's around 150 something. You can't really see it. I only have one hand, but it's definitely toggling, but at very, very low voltages, depending on what's drawing on the screen there. So that's the red. We're looking at the pinball screen right now. And then when the game comes on, or when it starts drawing something else, let's see. And now the game's on, there's a lot more lines and stuff. Alright, so let's go to green. About 120 something. So I would say, I mean, the signal's there. Looks very similar to what the red looks like. And then that's blue. And then I don't know what 17 is. That's something else. Alright, so I would say the PPU is fine. We can focus probably over here, and I'll start testing the capacitor, the transistors, the resistors, see if we can figure something out. Alright, I've been probing around and actually figured I actually had the wrong schematic, or I needed to get the versus table schematic, which actually has the both color sections, because the 4066 and it's not these two chips controlling here and these two chips controlling up here. Basically red is coming in, is on pin this is like what, some type of switch, 4066. It's a CMOS switch, and I think pin, let's see, red, pin 12 is the sync right here coming into that switch, and then pin 11 goes out to your output of the red. There's some transistors. I don't really understand kind of what's going on. Obviously the red signal is being activated and then amplified and turned on and turned off or something. And then you have this LM324 here, which is obviously the amplifier. You have voltage coming in, and then I don't know, I'm going to have to look up the LM324. There's obviously a capacitor there. That's for the red circuit. And then coming over here on pin 10, and obviously driving, or this switch to the red. And the same thing here. So let me just look at that on the oscilloscope, because basically over here is your blue, and this is your red, and that's your green. So if we look at, let me turn it to frequency. Alright, so we're going to come, this is the frequency coming in. It's your horizontal frequency, 15,000 hertz, right? So we're good there. But if we look at, let me go back to voltage. If we look at pin 4 of 2P, there is nothing happening there. And that is, I think, an in-out, and the other pin is pin 3, which I'm probing right now. You don't see anything. Now I'm going to go to the red, which is right here, and that's the in-out of the red, and you can see there's activity there. And you can see that also from the amplifier, there's a good, I have this on times 10, but that's a good, 3.5 volts basically coming in the other part for the red. So like red is D, the control line of the 4066 is pin 12. That's where your sync comes in, and then you have your activity for the red going out to the monitor here on pin 11. and there's activity there. And then you have voltage on pin 10. I'm just covering the red right here. Pin 10 basically comes to this amplifier at 1p. And so we looked at the same thing over here on the green. We have no activity on pin 5. We have activity on the control pins. We have no voltage on pin 3. So it could be, you know, something to do with the transistors. It could be, you know, Q23, Q21 for all I know. I've been probing around. I haven't quite figured it out. It could be this amplifier. I'm definitely getting voltage on pin 7. Let's take a look at that. Pin 7. But I'm not seeing anything on pin 5 and pin 6. So let's look at that real quick from a voltage standpoint. Here's the amplifier. So pin 7. Yeah, something's bringing that down. That should be around 10 to 12 volts. And I'm only getting not even a whole volt. There's something on it, but it's not right. And then there's basically, well, there is a little bit of voltage going out on pin 6, pin 5, nothing. And then on the red side, to compare it to something, we are at like pin 8. Pin 8, and you can see, let me see, it's a little bit rusty, but you can see I have basically 10 volts on that line. And then on pin 9 I got 0.3 volts. Maybe the amplifier is working 0.3 volts. Is it? That's pin 9. See, it's a little bit rusted, so I might replace this amplifier anyway. But if I come over here and I probe, sorry, if I tried, yeah, I'm not getting, something's going on pin 7. Because this is rusted and it's not looking right, I mean, this should be 12 volts. You know what I mean? Maybe there's something shorted on that line. I don't think so. And then I have nothing over here either, so I don't know, something's whacked out. I have some LM324s. It's rusted. I'm gonna socket this thing and replace it. Alright, so I ended up replacing the LM324, cut it out, replaced it, didn't fix it. Then I tested all the capacitors with my ESR meter. Those tested good, C18. And I just kept on comparing back and forth, and I ended up pulling all the transistors, Q23, Q21, Q16. 2 of them are PNPs, I think, and 1 of them is a NPN. And they all tested good with the diode test. And I'm like, oh my god, I don't even know what else to test here. There's basically resistors and stuff. I ended up pulling out the variable resistors here. Let me get my multimeter. And I should have probably done this to begin with, because one of them just didn't seem like, when I twisted it, had a lot of resistance. But if I check here, I get almost 500 ohms. If I check on this one, it's basically reading open. So I'm thinking this has got to be it, right? Unless I'm not making contact, but this has got to be it. This pot is the one that I pulled out of the one section that's giving me the problem. I'm going to put this one in, and we'll see what we get. Let's check. I replaced. You can see here I pulled the green variable resistor out of this side of the board and put it in over there. Let's check our pin 7 over an amp now. That's pin 7 right there. That was reading like almost no voltage. Now we're at 10 volts. So that definitely looks like that was the problem. And there we go. I see green. Looks much better. Oh, green flippers and numbers over there. Got this board fixed, it looks like. Now my board doesn't really work right. If I hit Okay, cool. If I hit it twice, I get 2 players to show up. And some pinball, but only for some reason. Only. There you go. All right. Turn that down a little bit. I don't even know how long this is, but basically troubleshot basically the entire circuit. I mean, I pulled out almost everything. Ended up replacing the LM324. I didn't need to do that, and it ended up being the variable resistor VR4. This thing was just completely open on the resistance, so and that was obviously somehow bringing this voltage down here. I don't know exactly how, but it was bringing that voltage at pin 7 way down and screwing up other stuff. So, all right, board's fixed. That's part 2. I think everything's working on it. I do need to come back and obviously put another VR there, but I'm not going to film that. And that's it for this board. Cheers, guys.